Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sustainability-Tea-Time podcast hosted by the University of Victoria Sustainability Project. We are a student-funded organization that promotes sustainable endeavors on and off campus. This episode is being recorded on the homelands of the Lekwungen and WSÁNEĆ speaking peoples. My name's Ely, and I'm going to be your host for the episode today. I will be interviewing two of our board members to discuss wellness within the sustainability movement, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. My name's Lindsay. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the chair with the UVSP, and I am a student at UVic in the Geography and Environmental Studies program right now.
I'm Alexa. I also use she, her pronouns, and I am in social sciences, and I'm part of the UVSP as a board member.
Amazing. So for the podcast today, we're going to be talking about how sustainability and wellness tie together, especially during online school. So I have a few questions for you guys. First of all, how have you incorporated wellness this school year?
That's such a good one. I think step one for me was making sure to schedule in breaks for myself. I found it really hard with the transition to online learning and stuff, just separating my personal life and my breaks and my mental health from my schoolwork, just because my computer is just always right there and my desk is right beside my bed. I really had to make that time different from my work time.
Right. Yeah, for me, it's definitely been a lot of creating a routine around, especially waking up. I found plugging in my phone away from my bed has really been essential, because it's just so quick to quick first thing you do in the morning is go on Instagram and just start the day on the screen and end the day on the screen. I've been trying to prevent that in my routine, just because we've on it so much and it's hard on the eyes, and we don't really know the effect that all this is having on our body. So much screen time, and we're losing our social interaction. So that's been really hard. And yeah, also just reaching out to people around you.
Right.
That's been really important.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to see the bigger picture here and realize that sort of investing into my wellness right now will help me to sustain my health and my grades and my social life and just all these different aspects. I'm investing in that for the long run.
Right. And then also too, it's if we are energized ourselves, then we will have the ability to take on causes that are near and dear to our hearts. So talking about Indigenous rights, and this is why I propose having an idea about doing wellness and sustainability together for this podcast to
Right.
really connect the two, because if we're burnt out ourselves, then we can't help others and the planet. And
yeah, wellness and sustainability are just so interconnected, especially with just having so much online time. We're just overloaded with sort of bad news, real news. And people who are on the ground and are experiencing all these hardships and struggles firsthand, which is amazing to sort of hear people's stories and their voices so directly. But it can be overwhelming just hearing so much bad when you already are aware of all of sort of the bad that's in the world, and sort of all of your personal struggles. It's definitely so interconnected. Wellness and sustainability in your life and with sort of environmental and external.
I totally agree. If you think about it from a grander scheme of things, the pandemic plus all of the environmental degradation that's going on, plus all the plastic pollution, plus any personal things that's going on, especially with school being online, it all just kind of comes together. And it interconnects completely.
But it's so overwhelming, right? If you think about everything, right? And you think of like your little self here in Victoria, you know, like what am I doing, like part of the bigger picture of things. But it's so hard to like isolate yourself from it. I think like groups like the UVSP, it's so important to have connection this time, even though obviously it's hard online, but it's just like really forcing yourself to like get outside of like your comfort zone, even if you don't really like Zoom. Like this is the circumstances we have right now, and we need the connection with other people, because otherwise we feel like these isolated people, and we feel like desperate. We can't do anything to like help ourselves and like the greater humanity, and like so we're moving forward as a collective as opposed to this.
Right. That like totally brings back your point about routine, you know, like having these sort of like activities that may just be like a meeting on Zoom every 2 weeks, and like we're just sort of trying to do what we can as a student advocacy group, like during a pandemic, all online, but like still it brings so much routine and connection, and it's like even though it's not in the ideal format, it's still like can be really important and really impactful just for your wellness.
For sure. Yeah, personal accountability, like showing up to better yourself and the greater community you're a part of.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. Like, I know the UVSP meetings are like bi-weekly and they're only an hour, but I feel like they really help with my mental health, just because like some of my classes are asynchronous, and even for my synchronous classes, like nobody shows their face, and I'm just like alone every day doing schoolwork. Usually when COVID isn't a thing, like I'll have like my friends studying with me and we can just kind of like get on the grind together, but now that's not really a possibility in British Columbia. So I feel like just having someone there, like a group of people that share the same values as you, to talk about stuff that you're passionate in, and that's really important to your mental wellness if you're somebody that cares a lot about sustainability. And obviously that goes into sustainability because we chat about sustainability. So I totally agree.
Yeah, it's I like heard someone use a metaphor to describe these times as like we're all in like mini snow globes.
Yeah.
Like, everything, all the problems and like everything are like just flowing around with us, and it's like no time than like ever before that we're like solo going after it, because we can't connect with other people as we normally would. Like we can't, and also like not be as busy. It's like, I don't know, maybe last year's like, oh, UVSP, like I have to do this on campus, like blah blah blah, like I'll go next week. But like now it's like it's so crucial to like that is happening, like I'm going.
Yeah, I feel like another way that sustainability and like wellness ties into each other is because like you can't be advocating and on the front lines like reading sad sustainability news or just trying to like speak up when you are mentally drained. Like especially during online school, I think a lot of us have Zoom fatigue. A lot of us are just like not getting enough sleep and not doing the best. So yeah, I think it's really crucial that we have to take care of our emotional well-being and wellness in order to fully engage in sustainability efforts.
Yeah, you're so right. Like when I think of like wellness and sustainability, I like think back to all of the solidarity action that was happening with the Wet'suwet'en last January, so like just over a year ago. And just sort of like how powerful that was. Like if you were down at the legislature, like you were like witnessing like activist burnout, and like you really had to focus on your wellness if you wanted to sort of be there every day and like show solidarity and like actually like show up, like not just like be there, but like show up for other people, you know? And that was just like such a struggle, and it was so exhausting. And like I wasn't even like part of like the main organizing group, and I wasn't really like connected with the youth that were like pulling all the strings behind this like amazing movement.
Right, which is so awesome too, because it's all community led.
Yeah, and it's so inspiring to like see people that are like youth. Like there was also a lot of elders, I think, there as well, but it was a lot of like young people who may have been students, or just like they had their part-time or full-time work, and they were like giving up so much time to like advocate for these causes, and like their wellness was such a big part of that, you know?
Yeah, you like saw them in practicing the ritual, like even at the legislature. And like I feel so fortunate we were there for some of the songs they were saying that are so healing. Like sometimes when I'm stressed, like I remember the one they would often sing with the drum down at the legislature.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And just like sort of group healing and how that has changed over the past year with COVID. Like, yeah, you really got to like focus your wellness back into sort of like a priority for yourself.
Do you guys know what the term eco-anxiety is, and do you guys experience it?
I don't think I have like that much familiarity with it, but I think I would definitely relate to it.
Just being scared out of your mind pretty much about everything.
Yeah, it's hard to be like hopeful when there's just so much daunting news about the climate and sort of different like resource extraction projects going on, and like how that ties in with like human rights and like social change. Like, yeah, it's super overwhelming.
For sure. There's actually a prof at UVic called Ellen Kelsey in the environmental studies, and she started this thing called on Instagram. It's like a hashtag ocean optimism, and I follow it, and pretty much her belief behind it is she's explaining why it's important. Pride rather than fear is so crucial in environmental engagement, and why if we're ever gonna like a post-pandemic, like a green recovery or whatever, like in order for people to act, they have to feel inspired. They're not gonna feel inspired if you're saying like this is how much the earth is gonna warm, like this is how much like sea levels are gonna rise in 10 years, like, you know, like big picture. That just makes people want to crawl into bed and like listen to Adele all day, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. I feel like, so during first semester, I did this like research project for a qualitative research methods class. And my research question was just how the COVID pandemic has impacted the sustainability practices, and especially like the attitudes of low wasters. And a lot of my data basically just said that a lot of my participants struggled with eco-anxiety because, especially now during COVID, like you see a lot more plastic pollution, you know, like single-use plastics are going up because reusables are banned, and a lot of people are using disposable face masks. So it's hard to kind of keep a easygoing spirit and an encouraged spirit when everything's just kind of going downhill.
Right. And it seems like such a step in the wrong direction when you think like it took like 2 years to like implement some of these like plastic straw bans, and like now it's just like wiped away. But I mean, there's definitely, I think maybe what the pandemic has taught us is like that maybe it's just like such a great, not great, but like a unifying thing. Like we're all going through this, and like I think it also just reminds us how connected we are, like in terms of the planet, like our ecosystems. I think the world, like Mother Nature's just like, hold on guys, you think you own the show? Like, let me just tell you here. And then COVID, and then obviously it's been so heartbreaking and so painful, but you know, I think there's some potential. There's a time for us to really rise out of this stronger than ever before.
Yeah, I think a big part of sort of like the pandemic and it impacting sustainability is like sort of the social attitudes that people were sort of acquiring related to like reusable bags and sort of like more environmentally friendly like transportation and things like that. Like some people like may not have the capacity now to sort of like take the bus, whether that be related to sort of health or like who's in their bubble, or like if you're just working from home, you're not going to be leaving your house as much. So like people are not going to be doing those things, and like they might choose driving over taking the bus. And same with like bringing your own bag to the grocery store. Like people don't want to do that anymore, and some grocery stores like won't let you. And so just like rebounding from those attitudes during COVID, after sort of COVID has sort of wrapped up, if that will ever happen. I don't know if we'll be like seeing sort of these social attitudes again, or if we will that be sort of like a longer term goal?
I'm really curious about that too.
Yeah.
And like what society will do. And like, are we going to bounce right back? Or are we going to take a very long time to bounce back, which I hope does not happen.
I think it's so funny though, just as like humans, we're like, we gotta go back to normal, but like, what do we want to go back to that normal? Like, was that positive back then? Like, we're all just so busy, like, just careless. I don't know. I think it's definitely been like a big wake up call. Like, you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Also, privilege like ties into that too. Like, just sort of the cost of a reusable mask versus getting like free disposable masks. That can be like such a barrier for people. Like, same with just like all sorts of PPE.
Right.
Yeah, that's just sort of like a big thing that I think even sort of like governmental benefits and such that have been happening in Canada, like yeah, they're giving you a little bit of money towards like rent and food, but like, should they be also giving out PPE for people as well?
Yeah, especially things like the unhoused folk and how devastating this pandemic has also been, like the Indigenous communities with lower resources and like that type of thing. And
it's like, how do we keep everyone safe and consider sustainability to an extent?
So how have you guys been cultivating wellness practices that are sustainable? And what are some examples of wellness practices in mainstream media that are unsustainable? If you want to shed light on that.
Let's see. I think the time we get to spend outside right now has been like super integral for me. It's just like when you like really see how everything's interconnected, because you're like, here I am walking and here's the Gary Oak ecosystems and there's a great horned owl and all that type of stuff. And then I think also being super mindful of what you're consuming all around, but in terms of like, are you cutting out single-use plastic where you can and like where it's safe for you to do so and that type of thing. And there's like, I received from the UVSS the mental health care box they had coming out, and they had Neza Naturals, which I think is a local company in Victoria, and they make face masks and like clay masks and stuff that are more environmentally friendly than like the single-use stuff that you commonly see on Instagram. And also Silk Road tea, which is phenomenal and is bulk. You can bring your container. And that's been cool highlights.
I think over the past like year and a half, I've been thinking like a lot about diet and sort of like how individual that is and how sort of income plays a part in it and geographic location and just like a whole bunch of, it's very intersectional, diet and food systems. And personally for myself, I think diet has been like such a big part of my wellness. Like finding sort of the right foods for me that fit into my student budget, but are also very like environmentally aware.
Like eating the seasons,
Like
should we be buying mango for our smoothies right now? I don't know.
You guys want to expand on what you mean by environmentally aware for the listeners? Like, are we talking local? Are we talking plant-based? Are we talking like how it's packaged?
For sure. Yeah, I think all of those things. Definitely there's like trade-offs with your food. Like, are you gonna spend a little bit more this week on some of your root vegetables and buy them local? Or are you going to sort of cater to your budget and just buy like bulk from Costco straight from like Guatemala or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's always trade-offs, and I think you just sort of have to like see both sides of organic versus non-organic, local versus non, and just sort of like the packaging as well.
Yeah, I think it can be so overwhelming too. Like, you're like, what's better decision? Like, I can buy this organic, but there's GMOs and it's in plastic, or I can buy this bulk one from Guatemala, you know? It's like, what's the better choice? I think sometimes you just be like, okay, can't please everything. I'm doing the best I can here. Yeah. I'm gonna pick this, but I know there was definitely some problematic things that went on to get into my hand, but
for sure. And too, like, I've just like sort of recently in the last few years started to do like fully my own grocery shopping, you know, like becoming a student last year and living on my own, like moving out here across the country. Like, I didn't really know how to shop for myself and how to sort of like cultivate sustainability in my diet. And so that's been a really big learning curve. And like, yeah, you can't be perfect. Like, the food system has so many flaws that as a consumer, like, you'll almost always sort of be doing something wrong. And you just have to like cater to like what your body needs for nutrients, and like what will like make you like feel good, like mentally and physically, and something like foods that fit into your budget as well. So like veganism, I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I have done enough research to sort of like figure out what vegan recipes and foods will like work for me right now. And so like I'm sort of like trying to like lead into that, because veganism, there's a lot of like privilege with it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in like another food podcast. Hint, hint, big plug here.
Plug.
But yeah, like something like veganism, like it doesn't work for everyone, and like you can't just believe that you're unsustainable because you're not like fully vegan or fully vegetarian. It's like, no, you have to do like what's right for you, what's right for your budget. Like all these different aspects come into play with diet, and like you can be sustainable, but there's always like trade-offs with it, of course.
Yeah, like I remember this great quote. I forget who said it, but it's like the goal of like being sustainable, you don't want everyone to be doing it perfectly. You don't want like 10 people to be doing it perfectly. You want like a mass amount doing something, but it's not perfect. Like they're trying, but like you want it to be imperfect.
Yeah.
Because it's unattainable for so many reasons. Like we can't all be vegan and like zero waste, and you know, especially COVID too, it's just like back to basics.
Yeah, get your nutrients, like make sure you're fed.
I totally agree to what Lindsay was saying just now about like veganism and sustainability and privilege. A bit ago, I think, like during the winter break, so like 2 months ago, I just decided like there isn't that much I can do for sustainability anymore nowadays, because like you can't go on like beach cleanups, and you can't bring a lot of reusables to things, and there's just a lot that you can't do anymore. So I decided I'm going to go as plant-based as possible. So I decided to basically like, you know, gather a lot of plant-based meals and plant-based meal plans, cook those, grocery shop for those. And it was pretty good. I felt really good about myself, because I know that like eating plant-based is one of the most like best things you can do for the planet. But then I started feeling kind of tired during the day, and I had a consultation with my family doctor, and apparently after I got my blood test figured out, apparently I was iron deficient, because I wasn't eating meat. So in order to take care of my health, I had to start eating a little bit of red meat. So I feel like that just kind of goes to show like it kind of sucks, but also like you can't do everything perfectly, because you got to take care of your health. Yeah.
I went through the same thing, Ely.
Me too. Yeah.
It sucks.
Happened to me in July. Yeah, and I was in a bit of an accident in the fall. And just part of my healing, like I really, brought me back to basics. And I was like, okay, what does my body need right now? Like, what is wellness for me in this moment? Like, even if my sort of like values related to food are like very plant-based, like at that time, like, yeah, I needed iron, I needed protein, like there were all these sort of things that my body needed to heal. And I just gave them to myself because I was like, okay, like this is what I need right now.
She needed the cold cut turkey from Save On.
I did. That was like my one thing. I was like, I need this. And it helped me so much. And like, so these sort of like dietary needs and diet related to sustainability, like it changes all the time. It's such a dynamic thing. Like your body needs things that you might not need all year round, but yeah, you just got to like hone into like
it's
your specific needs.
It depends on the moment. It like changes all the time, like during the day with COVID too, and like Zoom school. It's like, I need more sugar today. Like, and I think it's so important not to be harsh on yourselves, just because like these times are just so, I know everyone said they're so unprecedented, but like they really are. Like,
I got
it's crazy.
Every time someone has said that.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, and also like with wellness practices and sustainability, like making your wellness practices a habit, I feel like is a really hard thing. Like you have to
do that.
Yeah, like you have to like make these practices like sustainable in the sense of like you can do these things long term, and you can see like the long term effects of what you're doing, whether that be like exercise or like if you like music, like creating music or art or like sort of whatever it means to you to be well. Yeah.
Do you want to give examples of how you've been exercising these types of practices?
Yeah, well, I've this past like 2 years I've really been getting into like yoga and stretching, and like I've been making stretching like a part of like when I wake up and when I go to bed. You know, like I get out of bed and I make sure to do it, and then before I get into bed at the end of the day I do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, making it a routine, making it sort of accessible. I have my yoga mat out just like all the time. And sort of contributing to my like physical and mental health with online school too, because sitting in a chair all day really gets your body in a funk.
Yeah,
it's no good.
Wrong places.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me I definitely been like making my like meditation practice more of like a constant. I try to do that every morning. Just because sometimes I do it when I'm like more like feeling down or like tired, but like no, it's like you gotta sustain yourself through. Like you gotta do it all the time if you can. And then also I could go on a really long time about this, but I started this exercise program called The Class. They have a free 14-day trial. And it's like the most amazing, it's like a workout for your mind, body, spirit, whole thing. And it's kind of like yoga, but it's like mindfully curated to like the most amazing music ever. And you got jumping jacks and squats in there, and like it's like spiritual fitness is how I'm gonna end that.
That should be a thing.
Yeah, but check it out, The Class on Instagram. Yeah, I've done a couple of those classes, and like they're really fun.
Yeah,
like it's a fun way to sort of reflect on your day and like sort of how you're feeling, but also like having that physical aspect and just like getting sweaty and like dancing around a little bit.
It's very like free flowing. Like there's lots of time where it's just like you going at whatever your body feels good to move that day, and like and you also just release so much. All that Zoom fatigue, you just it out.
Yeah, and you can like find that in like so many different ways. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Tennis. Yeah, tennis, running. Just throwing on like a Just Dance video from YouTube.
Yeah, so many ways. I think there's no wrong way to do it during these times. Like wherever feels good for you and your body. Like this is your home.
Yeah, I used to do like literally just 10 minutes of yoga every morning. I used to do that, and I used to do that for months. Like I think from August, I did it like almost every morning. And then lately, I don't know what has happened. I just haven't been doing it. And you can feel a difference. between like just, I know it's just 10 minutes in the morning, but it really does a lot.
Yeah, I feel that way about I was like super into journaling in high school. I had did this like program, and that was sort of like you had to do it. You had to keep a journal, and it kind of stuck with me. And like I'm realizing now that like journaling, even if it's just like a couple sentences about like how I'm feeling when I woke up, or just like some things that I saw today that made me happy, like being proactive about sort of like a wellness practice and like doing it even when you don't necessarily feel like you need to is like so important, because you're just being like proactive about your mental health, and you're sort of like assessing it before it may need to be assessed, you know, like before you sort of hit that like almost rock bottom. You're sort of helping yourself out and giving yourself like that daily dose of like sort of what your mind or your body needs.
Right. Not to plug UVic or anything, but they did just start their whole new like the wellness center. And part of what they have is called Support Connect, and it's like a 24/7 student hotline, and you can like talk to all sorts of professionals at any hour of the day. And it's a new service this year, and I don't know if my students know about it, so
I don't know about it personally. I'll check it out.
Yeah, the wellness center seems pretty awesome. Like they have, I think there's COVID testing at UVic now. The wellness center has like
not so awesome COVID testing.
Yeah, COVID testing, that's just sort of like a FYI.
Yeah.
But the wellness center, I think, has like
holistically approach to wellness is like, because you got multi-faith, and you got doctors, you got nurses, mental health professionals, all in one place. So it's just like communication is key. Obviously, there's a lot more work to be done, but in terms of the whole, that's another story. But
yeah,
bringing in like non-traditional like Western medicine, and then like thinking of other approaches to that, you know. There's so much to learn from, and Indigenous peoples around the world have been doing this like wellness thing for so long, but we're all just
we've got a lot to learn from each other. Just as sort of like a classic pandemic quote, we're all in this together.
Exactly. And I do have a quote to wrap things up for us.
Do share.
It goes like this: there's a way that nature speaks, that land speaks. Most of the time, we're simply not patient enough, quiet enough to pay attention to the story. Linda Hogan. And I think that quote really resonated to me, because like this time is giving us the time to calm down and listen to the planet. And I think that's what the planet has done, delivering us this pandemic.
Yeah.
What a beautiful way to end the pod. Well, it was so lovely chatting with you guys.
Thanks for having us, Ely.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for sharing how you've been cultivating wellness with sustainability.
Super fun.
Yes.
I hope our tips and tricks resonate with the listeners.
Yeah, our little tangents and rambling.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Awesome.
Okay, see you next time.
See you, Ely.
Talk to you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining us on the Sustainability-Time podcast, hosted by the University of Victoria Sustainability Project. This podcast was edited by Emma Jane Beering, and the music is by Hook Sound.